what this lovely lady calls perseverance, I call stubbornness. But also in this business, I really think that without it, you're just going to get pummeled, you're going to get forgotten, you're going to get pushed to the side. There was this short film that this young queer filmmaker was making, and the lead actress in it was a trans character. And I had just come out, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months before that. Because, you know, I'd been living kind of like as a stealth trans woman for about like 15 years up to that point. And at some point, you know, about 10, 11 years ago, I'm like, what the hell? It's kind of like what we were talking about. It's saying, you know, sometimes you take these leaps of faith. You're like, I may lose everything. I may lose everything I've worked for up to this point, but my soul needs validation. Like, I have struggled everything. You know, it's like I come from Iran. As a teenager, I've been arrested, I've been assaulted, I've tried to commit suicide, I've been in jail, I've gone through all of that. And I was like, well, why have I gone through all of that if now I'm going to be in this business that I really love, but I'm going to still be hiding? It's kind of like, you know, I haven't done all of that to be here. So I come out as an accident, this casting director that I had auditioned for commercials for years up to that point. Is casting this short film. And she brings me in and I audition, and the writer-director, she wasn't feeling it. She didn't think that I was a bad actor, she just thought that I didn't necessarily have whatever it was she was looking for, and she was a young director, so she was also trying to find out what she was looking for. But that casting director, who I had seen many times before, she went to bat for me. She said, I think this is the person that you want. This is somebody who risked her life and her career up to this point and came out, and that's what your character is doing. So I got a call back and I booked it. But what was happening behind the curtain was that this casting director also knew agents who wanted to know who booked the lead role in that tiny little short film. And because of the relationship I had with this woman, she said, by the way, if you are looking for representation or if you're not happy with yours, there are people I know that kind of like wanted to know who booked this. They're interested. So I'm like, sure. We made contact. I was out in Kansas City doing a reading of some play. We talked. I came back. I met. And at that time, I had a much better idea of who I was, what it is that I wanted, and what I wanted my agents to do. And I remember one of the things that I said, I don't have a problem hustling. Like, you know, and that's what this business is. It's like, it's a hustle. Whether you're here, you're always hustling. You're always like, who's doing what? Is there something in there that I could be right for? And so I went in their office downtown. I said, I don't have a problem with working or showing up when I need to, but I need somebody who's more cutthroat than I am to be able to talk to producers and casting directors the way I can't. They're like, that's who we are. And I'm still with them 10 years later. And that's not to say it's always smooth sailing. You know, it's a relationship between two people. Sometimes it hits bumps along the way. And while they get me auditions for, you know, it's like guest star, whether it was on Law & Order SVU or The Walking Dead Dead City, between those projects, English on Broadway that Alyssa was talking about, how that started 8 years ago. It was a thesis project at NYU, and it had its first public reading. And the director of that had recommended me to the writer because I had been in some reading that they were also attached. And so I did that first reading. Then I did the second reading a year later at Roundabout Theater Underground. Then the pandemic happened. Then I did a Zoom reading. And then they still made me audition for the off-Broadway run. That's how this business works. And, you know, I was a little like, I've been in its first reading, I've been in second reading, I've been in its third reading, and how I find out that this is coming to off-Broadway is on Actors Access. Like, it's not that I even get an email saying like, oh, you know, we're gonna do this, would you like to come in and audition? And I'm like, you know, to say one of my eyebrows went up, it went so far up that I can't physically do it. It's like, it's our ego. You know, it's like we put our heart in the work that we do. So when we feel that we're not being treated, like there's a part of it that's like, I'm like, so I took a breath. I'm like, well, can I have an audition? So they're like, sure. They invited me in for a work session. And for those of you that don't know quite what a work session is, it's like, if you think about it, they know they like you, but they kind of want to see how it would actually be to work with you. Because especially when you're doing a show, you're going to have 5-6 weeks of rehearsal, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. You're spending a lot of time with these people. You want to see, you know, are they going to take direction? Are they going to have attitude? Are they going to play well in that environment? So I went for the callback, and the mindset I went is like, I'm like, I don't know what the hell you want me to show you that you haven't seen already. Like, you know, I was in this reading, you were all part of it. I was in that reading, you were all part of it. I was in this other reading, you were all part of it. So I just went in, you know, kind of like in this very, I don't know what else you want me to show you. So I just did what I had done. And I booked it. And then, you know, it's like it had its off-Broadway run, which you and Gary came. And then it won a lot of awards. It won the Drama Desk Award and the Lucille Lortel Award. We got nominated for Best Ensemble. We didn't win. Then a year later, it won the Pulitzer for Best Play. And then everybody wanted to do it. And in between this, you know, it's like I'm working on different projects. Like I went to London and I worked on this play that was not the greatest experience, but I would look back on it as the fact that I got to live in London in a one-bedroom apartment on somebody else's dime. On somebody else's dime during the holiday season, so it was gorgeous. And I managed to have a whirlwind romance while I was there. So all in all, you know, fun had by all. I come back, it wins the Pulitzer, and then every other theater in the States wants to do it. I got offered a role in another production in Atlanta, but I was like, I don't want to play the same role again. You know, I originated it, I played it off Broadway. Now I would like to aim for another role in the play, the teacher role. And they said, sure, but you know, we haven't seen you play that role, so would you be open to auditions? I'm like, would I be open? Sure, when do you want to see it? So, and this is where I'm like, I don't have an ego about my work. I know my worth, but not an ego. I'm like, well, you haven't seen me play this role, so I'll come do it. And the director was my friend, so I didn't take anything for granted that just because my friend, I'm gonna get that role. I auditioned, I got that role. Then I did 2 productions of English back-to-back, one in Atlanta, one at Barrington Stage. Then I came back, they let me know there was another production of English happening in San Diego. And the director hadn't seen any of the productions of English that I had done. So they're like, we know you've done this 3 times and it's ridiculous that they want you to audition, but if you want to do it, I'm like, well, if this person hasn't seen my work, I'm not gonna expect them to just give me this role. I don't know if I would trust somebody who wants to do a production and cast a lead in this play without ever having seen their work. Like, I don't know if I would trust that person. I auditioned, I booked it, I went and did it. While I was there, I auditioned for Walking Dead Dead City. I booked it. But in between these highs, there are also a lot of little things that happen. You know, you do this reading, you do that reading. Last year, I think I did 8 developmental readings, 6 of them in the city. One of them was a week-long workshop at Dartmouth. One of them was a week-long workshop at the Eugene O'Neill Center. That was by the ocean, so it wasn't a bad way to spend a week. And I say this to younger people because we are all waiting for that one thing that's going to pick you up and it's going to make your life. And I wish that happens for all of you. For 95+% of people, that's not how it happens. You work. You're building a pyramid one stone at a time. And the English story is exactly that. You started reading. You don't know what it's going to become. Are there any horror fans in this room? Have any of you seen the movie Terrifier? Okay, so you know where I'm going to go with this. So Terrifier has now become this huge horror franchise. They're now making Terrifier 4. 10, 11 years ago, I went to an audition, you know, an indie horror film, God knows how many of those I've auditioned for. And there was a woman in front of me. I'm like, well, she's definitely going to get the role of the crazy woman. I mean, she was really looking. But I later heard from the director was like, there's a difference between being crazy and playing crazy. And I was playing crazy and she was actually crazy. But, you know, it's like, I mean, I saw the person and it's like the thought that went through my head was like, well, she's going to get it. You know, she has the crazy hair and the look on her face and all of that. But I got the role. And about a month before shooting, the writer-director reaches out to me and said, I really liked your audition. I'm looking to develop your character further. I want to write more scenes for you. What do you want? And I was like, well, you know, I love playing mothers. I have this maternal side to me. And even at that time, I'm like, I have no idea how that's going to work out in this really dark, horror, gory movie. And for those of you who have seen Terrifier, well, you kind of know how I got to kind of be a mother in that story. And that gave birth to the creepiest doll anyone's ever seen, Emily, my child, this little porcelain doll. And I'm very proud to have been part of that. But that didn't make my career. So I came to New York almost 30 years ago. I went to FIT, just up the street. I started doing improv. I was doing background work on the shows that were shooting in New York at the time. Sex and the City, the series. Oh my God. I was actually background actor on Sex and the City, the series, before the movies, all of that. So this would be like late 90s. And the other shows that were happening, you know, now and again, now and then, film with Sandra Bullock. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a trans actor, I'm a queer actor. And at that time, while in holding for one of the episodes of Sex and the City, some shithead. I mean, like, that wasn't the word I was going to use, but I think for today we can go with that. Somebody who I didn't know decided that it would be so fun to out me on set. And so he did. And he was also represented by the same agency that represented me for background work. And long and short of it is that the information got back to my agent, and my agent came up with some fictitious story of something they said I had said and done. They said I had accused them of Me Tooing me, which was not true, and they dropped me. And there were photographers I was working with, they all dropped me. So long and short of it is the industry kind of kicked me out unceremoniously. And, you know, I was young, I was insecure, I needed to make money, I was graduating from college. I had only been in New York like 4 years at that time, so I left the business I mean, like, it wasn't like the business said, oh, please, Pooya, stay. And I said, oh, no. It's like the business is like, okay, don't let the door hit you in the ass. So I left. And about 7, 8 years later, and a lot of like life happened in between, and I started my own business. And then I kind of, very coincidentally found my way back into acting. That was not on my radar. That wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. But that was 16 years ago. I started doing student films, and I have done some seriously shitty student films in my time. Some of them that if I ever get really big and they surface, I have a lot to talk about. Not a lot to explain because I own all of it, but we all start somewhere. I literally started again from zero at 31. I did a lot of student films, a lot, 10, 20, 30, 40. One of the last student films I did was an Academy Award finalist from Columbia University for the student film category. That was about 10, 12 years ago. I had my first TV co-star role about 10 years ago. It wasn't a great role, but it was my first primetime television network. And they say, you haven't really arrived until you've been shot on American television. So I can say that I have arrived because I've been shot on American television. And have their own journey. After that, I had a recurring guest star on a very badly rated show on USA Network. It was called Falling Water. It was a sci-fi drama. I was in 3 or 4 episodes on the first season, which was like a 10 or 12 episode season. They even gave me a cliffhanger, but the show tanked. It was one of the lowest rated shows on USA Network. I had nothing to do with that. But, when they tell you, like, have you done recurring guest stars? I'm like, yeah. You may not have seen any of them, but I've done recurring guest star. That was another moment. Then before the pandemic, I did this other show that is on Amazon Prime. We shot the entire first season, and it had some, A-list actors. It had Lance Hendrickson. It had Brett Cullen. It had, it's like a couple of, and Liam Neeson's son. The whole first season, it was this really fabulous, gritty, dystopian cop show called Big Dogs. It's on Prime. If you ever get really, really, really bored and you want to see that first season. But it came out during the pandemic, and it got completely lost. Very few people heard of it. So when somebody tells me, like, I saw you in Big Dogs, I'm like, how? Like, how did you even know it existed? They had even written the complete second season. We never got to do it. Which brings me to my most recent recurring guest star. Hopefully, God willing, universe allowing, more people will actually know this exists. Are you familiar with the Walking Dead franchise? Yeah. Okay. So Walking Dead, the original show, obviously ended. And now they're in the spin-off ones. Some of them have done better than others. I'd like to think the one I'm in has done better because it's come back for a second season. And I'm the secondary cast for the second season. I'm in 3 out of 8 episodes. The whole season is starting to air this Sunday, I believe, May 4th. And in case any of you are going to watch, it's Dead City. I'm in episodes 3, 4, and 5. I'm not going to tell you how it's going to go. You have to watch it. But, it's been a journey. There have been so many moments I thought, this is going to be it. This is going to be the thing that's going to show me to the world. This is going to be the project that's going to get me that email from, some producer in LA saying, like, Pooya, baby, I saw you. Come be the lead in, X, Y, and Z. That's not how most careers work. And that's the reality of it, which is also what you and I were talking about. I'll also tell you, like, something that just happened this week. it's like you network, and networking is the most amazing thing. And not networking in the fact of, somebody has a networking party and you go and have a glass of wine with somebody and, you're like, oh, they're going to remember me. They're not going to remember it. How people do remember you is when they see your work. Whether you're doing a reading or you do a pilot or you write something and you invite somebody. It's kind of like, it's work because everybody's busy, but something kind of like latches on in your mind and you're like, that person had something.